All right, so we'll be talking about deploying and shipping in SPFx today. But before deploying, we have to build your solution. So we'll see how build is done in SharePoint Framework, and we'll see how exactly SharePoint Framework solutions are built. So once we build, then we will actually go ahead and try to deploy the solutions to an online environment, SharePoint online environment, and see how the build process works. And also we'll, if we have some time left, we'll also see how CDNs actually help us to make our asset loading faster. So we'll look at Office 365 CDN and Azure CDN deployment. So about myself, my name is Vijay Natarajan. I'm based out of Chennai, and I'm a SharePoint and web trainer and consultant. So my focus is on teaching people modern web technologies and SharePoint, especially SharePoint Framework. And I've been working on SharePoint since 2006. And I have been working as a corporate trainer since 2012, and been a SharePoint developer since 2006. So the first version of SharePoint that I started working was MOS 2007. So I started a company called Mindshare Learning Solutions way back in 2017. So still it is a very small startup. So if you want to reach me, you can look at my contact details on the bottom right hand side, and you can just look at my company page on Facebook. I'm not very active on Twitter, but once in a while I do push some tweets on Twitter. More about me on LinkedIn, and of course my mail ID is there, so you can contact me if you want any help with SharePoint Framework or modern web development. All right, so let's get started. So today's agenda will be basically how to build your SharePoint Framework projects, and how exactly the building happens. So what is the technology used to build your SharePoint Framework projects? So how the building bundling is happening. Then once we have built, what exactly is a SharePoint Framework SPPKG file, and what is there inside an SPPKG file? So we'll have a peek into that, and we will deploy the SPPKG files to the app catalog, and also look at how to configure your CDNs, build bundle for CDNs, and also look at the deployment options in detail. Okay, so this is the agenda. So let's just get started with a demo. So let us see. So if you are actually very thorough in the basics, so if you know what is exactly happening behind the scenes in a project, like a node project or any web project, or a SharePoint Framework project which uses TypeScript, it will be easier to appreciate what exactly happens in the build in SharePoint. Okay, so I'll just get rid of this PowerPoint presentation and take you to a demo. In that demo, what we can do is we'll try to create a small web project, and in that web project we'll create a couple of TypeScript files, and we'll see how that can be built and how that can be run. Okay, so let me just quickly go to the command line. On the command line, I have created a folder called demo. So let me go into demo, and I already have a folder called TypeScript node. And so imagine that you are just going to do something with TypeScript. So you just go into the TypeScript, create a folder in TypeScript, and then what you're going to do is you're going to run npm init. Okay, so when you run npm init, it is going to ask you a couple of questions, and after that, what you will end up with is you will get a package.json file. Okay, so I have just run that already. So if you run this command on the command line, which is npm init, what happens is you actually create a package.json. Okay, so this is your package.json. So this is the configuration file for your Node.js project. So a SharePoint Framework project is also a Node.js project, and you can see that this is my package.json. So in this package.json, I am describing what is my main file which I'm going to run after compiling my TypeScript files, and then what are the dependencies that my project has got. So my project actually uses TypeScript, and it uses gulp and gulp TypeScript for now. So right now we'll not be using this, so we'll just use TypeScript. And in this project, the next thing that we will do is we will run another command. So we already have TypeScript installed in the project. So we'll say TypeScript -init. Okay, so when I say TypeScript -init, it will create a tsconfig.json file. Okay, so if you open this tsconfig.json, you will find the TypeScript configuration options. Okay, so this TypeScript configuration file you will also find in your SPFx project. So in your SPFx project, if you remember, you will see both the package.json and also the tsconfig.json. And in this tsconfig.json, we are saying target is ES5. That means the target version of JavaScript which will be generated after compiling your TypeScript files will be ECMAScript 5. Okay, so if you want to make it ECMAScript 3, you can make it ECMAScript 3. So it will generate an older version of JavaScript. But by default, when I say tsc -init, the target version of the generated JavaScript is ES5. Okay, so this is my target version. Then one option that I want to have is I want to actually create a output directory where all these files will be stored. So I will uncheck this line number 15, and I will just say that the output directory is dist. Okay, so this is my output directory, and if I want, I can actually I can create
Hello, Vijay, we lost you. Hello. Guys, give a couple of minutes. I'll check with Vijay.
yes, somebody muted me actually.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
no
yeah.
problem.
All right, so please do not mute me. Okay, so what I was saying is that this is the way we can create a Node.js TypeScript project. And in a Node.js TypeScript project, the files that we are interested in is having a package.json file, which will tell me what are the dependencies and dev dependencies, and a TypeScript config file which says where my what is the target version of JavaScript that will be generated for all my TypeScript files, and what will be the output folder. Okay, so I need to have a tslint file, so I'll just get it from an existing project. So let me just go into an existing project and get that. Okay, so what I will do is go to another project, and I'll just get a tslint and I drop it here. Okay, so this is my tslint file. So in the tslint file, there are a couple of linting rules. So tslint is used to actually check the verify the syntax of your TypeScript. And this is a minimalistic tslint file where we just have no console is false. That means if you write console.log, it will allow console.log. If you say no console is true, console.log will not work. Okay, so to make allow console.log, I'm just putting this no console over here and writing it as false. All right, so this is my tslint file. So in my project now I want to have some files. Okay, so what I can do is I can go to my src folder, and I can create some files over here. So okay, so let me create some TypeScript files. So let us say I want to create a class. So for a circle, so I'll just use some existing code, and I'll just put that. Okay, so I have already created a circle class, and I'll just put this over here. So this is my some TypeScript. So this is a class in TypeScript. It actually denotes a geometric shape called a circle. Okay, so this is one piece of code that I want to have. And now what I want to do is I want to actually test this this object. Okay, so I want to instantiate this object, and I want to see how this works. All right, so let me just copy this some code. So another code file I will create is an index.ts, and in that index.ts, what we are going to do is we'll import this circle. So circle class, we will export it. So and then what we can do is in index, I can just import that circle class. So I'll say import my circle class from /circle. Okay, so this gives me the ability to create circles. And now circle class has got a factory method which can churn out a couple of circles for you of the same size, and I can store it in an array. Okay, so this is what we are doing here. So circle dot static function create circles gets me a bunch of circles, and then I can actually you know, we make use of this these circles. All right, so this is all right. So let me just not use this factory function. I'll just say that this is my code. Okay, so this is my code. So this is my index.ts, and this index.ts allows me to run test some kind of code. So I would actually have a lot of logic which I can actually try out. But for this demo, just a very simple logic: one circle class in a file which denotes a circle. Then in the main program, which is index.ts, what we can do is we can just go and we can create some circles, an array of circles, and display the information about those circles. Okay, so to compile this, normally what you would do is you would actually go to this folder inside the project. So I would actually go to src folder, and I find my two TypeScript files, so I can actually compile them by giving the tsc command. Okay, so I can compile them one by one, and I will get the TypeScript, the equivalent JavaScript in the same folder. But I don't want that. What I want is I want that when I type tsc, okay, it should compile all my code. Okay, and it should put it in the dist folder. So what I will do is I'll simply say tsc over here, and let us see what happens. Okay, so it will compile all my TypeScript files. So if I'm having 100 TypeScript files in this src folder, you will see that they are all getting compiled. And what you will find is that the dist folder contains the equivalent JavaScript now. So all my src files got compiled, and they got pushed to this dist folder. So this is basically what you can call it as a very primitive build in TypeScript. So I run the tsc. So tsc compiles the entire set of bunch of source files and puts them in the dist folder. So now this is ready to run. Okay, so this is a Node.js TypeScript project, and this is ready to run. So one of the things that we can do is we can define a build script, or we can call it as a build task. And we can just put that over here in package.json. So what I'll do is I'll go to package.json, and in scripts I can write start. Okay, so I'll go to package.json, write start, and in the command for the command I'll say tsc. So it will run tsc first, and then it will run node, and then it will run /dist/index.js. Okay, so what happens is it is going to run this command like this. So we are creating an npm script now, and we are saying that when I want to run this project, I will actually say npm start. Npm start will compile this TypeScript, and it will actually compile all the files in my src folder, because that's what happens when we run tsc, and then it will run your node.js main file, and we will see this in action. Okay, so this is your package.json, how you can create an npm task to run your project. Okay, so the same concept is more or less applied in TypeScript, but in SPFx, but in place of npm, we will be using gulp. Okay, so we'll actually look at that after some time. So what I do is, in my Node.js project, I go to the root of my Node.js project, and you can see here, this is the root of my project, and I will say npm start. Okay, so let me just write npm start. Okay, so we will press enter, and now what it will do is it will compile all the TypeScript files to Node, and then it will run the index.js. So now in index.js, I have run this run the code which is there in index.js, and I can see the output on my screen. Okay, so this is a simple TypeScript program which creates some circles, finds out the area and the circumference of those circles. Okay, so 20 circles to be exact, and we can see the output. Okay, so what is the takeaway from this demo? The takeaway from this demo is that how to create a TypeScript node project. Okay, so if you are learning TypeScript for the first time, you can actually create use this technique. So create a folder. Inside that folder, create src and a dist folder. Then do a npm init. So npm init will give you a package.json, and then do a tsc init. It will give you a tsconfig.json. So in the tsconfig, uncomment line 15 and make out directory as dist, and then create a minimalistic tslint file where it says no console is equal to false. So you have set up your TypeScript Node.js project manually like this. And once you have done these 3 configuration files, you can go and create an src folder, put all your TypeScript files into that, and the main file will be the file which will have the execution logic. So this is just like the main.cs or main.java or the main.c, C++ files we have in those languages. So index.ts is the main file where I will be running my entire project. Okay, so I'll just write some main logic, and to create a build script or a build task, npm build task, something like npm start, I will actually go to my package.json, and inside the script folder, sorry, in the script section, we can write start tsc, and after that the second thing to do is run node and call index.js, which is generated from index.ts. Okay, so so this is the basic or very basic foundation of doing builds. So in a SPFx project, an SPFx project is also a Node TypeScript project, but it is quite advanced compared to this project, where we don't use npm. So you will not find yourself writing npm start. You will be writing something called gulp start. Okay, so gulp serve you will be writing. So somewhere in your package.json, you should be able to see your start will actually be writing will be actually gulp serve. So you can say npm start. Npm start will actually call gulp serve in a SPFx project. Okay, so we can try that out. So this is the very fundamental basic behind builds. So how to create a build and how to execute that build. So so now let us go into SharePoint framework. Okay, so SharePoint framework, how things work in SharePoint framework. But before that, you have to understand what exactly is gulp. So if you have been working with SharePoint framework for a bit, you must have come across this thing called gulp. Okay, so what exactly is gulp? So and how gulp is used. Okay, so if you want to actually learn Gulp, you can actually head over to this website. So you can go to Gulp, just search for Gulp on Google. It will take you to this website, which is gulpjs.com. And Gulp is actually a streaming build system. Okay, so if you go to the getting started section, you can find out more about Gulp and how exactly Gulp scripts are created. Okay, so let us say you want to create a Gulp script. So you can actually write a gulp file.js, and the gulp file.js will be written in JavaScript, and you can write scripts like these. Okay, so this is basically a typical gulp script that you can write in your web project. And a gulp script will actually have a lot of tasks. So you will write functions which are known as tasks. And what do we do with gulp is gulp can do the entire build and packaging of your web projects. So in web projects, what exactly we do in web projects, we convert TypeScript to JavaScript, we convert SAS files to CSS, we can whatever CSS is whatever JavaScript is generated, we can minify those the JavaScript. We can bundle all the JavaScript files together. So let us say if you are having some 20 or 30 JavaScript files, you can combine all those JavaScript files together and you can create a bundle so that you don't have to include 10 or 20 JavaScript files in your web pages. You can just include one big JavaScript file which is called a bundle. Okay, so all these tasks you can actually automate using Gulp. So if you are interested in learning some Gulp, you can actually go to this gulp.js and you can learn Gulp. Okay, so Gulp works for all kind of projects. It can work for Node.js project. It can work for web projects, and it also is used extensively in SharePoint Framework projects. Okay, so now let us go and see how Gulp is used in SharePoint Framework projects. So let me just close this. And let's go to another folder. So where I have created a SharePoint project, SharePoint Framework project. Okay, so let us go to SP web part. This is a folder, and inside this, I want to actually see what is the code. So I'll open this folder in Visual Studio Code. So this is a web part project, which is a very simple web part project without any framework. So I just went to the command line and I just said yoman at Microsoft/SharePoint, and then it asked me what kind of web part you want to create. So I said I want to create a customer info web part, and for the framework we said no framework. So it is a pure JavaScript based SharePoint framework project. So in this project, let us try to see what is the similarity between the simple node TypeScript project that we created and this project. Okay, so this project also has got package.json. So you can see here package.json, and here we have the dev dependencies, which are these from some of them are from Microsoft. Then we have Gulp, Chai, Mocha, and AJV, which are development time dependencies. And runtime dependencies are the SharePoint framework libraries. Okay, so SP core library, property pane, web part base. These are all, and fabric core. So these are all from Microsoft for related to a SharePoint framework. Then ECMAScript 6 promises and Webpack. Okay, so Webpack is the module bundling and loader software which we are going to use at runtime in SharePoint framework. Okay, but during development time we are going to use SP build web package, SP TypeScript linting rules package. Okay, and then of course the workbench is there. Then there's also something called REST stack compiler, which is used internally by the SharePoint workbench and build system. And you have SP module interfaces. Okay, so these are some of the dev dependencies. So we'll come back to this package.json in a bit. Then we have our tsconfig.json. So tsconfig.json is quite, it is a bit smaller than the one which we created. And here you can see it is targeting ES5. That means ECMAScript 5 JavaScript will be generated. So whatever web part runs in the browser for you, it actually uses ES5 JavaScript. And then out directory is lib. Okay, so in our case, out directory was dist. In case of SharePoint framework, out directory is lib. Okay, so that means whatever you have in your src folder. So src folder contains an index.ts and a web parts folder. And when we compile that, everything will be compiled and it will be output to a directory called lib. Okay, so this is the output directory. And all right, and we are going to include all these TypeScript files in src, all the folders under src. So this is basically what will be compiled. Okay, so exclude means node modules and lib folder will be excluded from the build. So this is your tsconfig.json. tslint.json has got all the linting rules. So these are all the syntax checking rules. So this is basically your the configuration of your project. Okay, so one extra thing that you will see in your project is this gulp file. So this is the build script that we will be using to build our SharePoint framework project. So in the SharePoint framework project, we don't have to write a gulp file of our own. SharePoint framework projects come with their own gulp file. So if you see here, it has got inbuilt gulp file or the build package, which is called sp-build-web. Okay, so someone asks you what is the build package in SharePoint framework for building your SharePoint framework projects. So you are going to say that it is sp-build-web. So this is going to contain the entire gulp scripts. We'll see that in a bit. Okay, so what this gulp file.js it does is it will actually import this. So when you say require is just like import. Okay, so in TypeScript we do import, but in JavaScript we do require. Okay, so this is require.js convention, and then we say build.initialize, and we just say require gulp. Okay, so what it will do is it will call a gulp task called start. Okay, so I think it is called the gulp task is called start, and that start task will run the entire build mechanism which is defined inside this. So to how to build your SharePoint framework project. Okay, before we deploy that, so that you can get some clue about that from your package.json. So in your package.json, you can see there is a build script here. So if you say npm build build, it will actually say gulp bundle. If you say npm clean, it will say gulp clean. If you say npm test, it will say gulp test. Okay, but you can also write like this serve, and you will actually you can write gulp serve. Okay, so this will actually build your SharePoint framework project, and it will actually serve. But we don't write npm serve. We can directly go and say gulp serve. So let us do a gulp serve and see what happens. Okay, so let us do this gulp serve. So let me just say gulp serve. Okay, so if I don't say gulp serve, if I simply say gulp, then also it will actually do a build. Okay, so when we run gulp in your web part project folder, it will go and look for a gulp file.js. So if it finds the gulp file.js, so whatever gulp script you have written inside that gulp file.js, it will be run. Okay, but I want to do a specific activity, so I'll say gulp serve, and it will build my entire project, and it will serve. Okay, so this is what we'll see in a moment. So when you call this gulp file.js and you say that I want to build and serve, just watch what is happening in the messages. Okay, so it says that using gulp file, this gulp file, starting this serve function, and then configure the build rig. Okay, then SPFx serve, and then it says that pre-copy task, run the pre-copy task, run the copy static asset task, okay, run the tslint task, now run the TypeScript compilation task, okay, then post copy task, then run the collect localized resources task. So like this, you have a lot of subtasks in your gulp. Okay, so the entire build process is made of these subtasks. So one after another, it will your gulp scripts, the build sp build web will call all these subtasks one by one, and it will actually execute all these tasks. Okay, so writing manifest and then reload, and then it actually creates a Node.js web server, and it runs that on a particular port, and then it will call the workbench.html for you. Okay, so once the workbench.html is called, the Node.js web server actually starts pumping out all these files. So these all these purple colored status messages are from the web server. So it says, and the browser is requesting these files. So we are just serving that. Okay, so once I have run this, I can see my workbench, and in the workbench I can actually go and add this web part. So this is just a hello world web part. I didn't make any code changes to this web part. So when I put this web part on the page, you can see that it loads the localization file. So this is the strings file. Then it loads the actual cust info webpart.js, and then it loads the there is a JavaScript file which is actually a legacy third-party Fabric Core local font file. Okay, so this is a local font file. So all these files are loaded. Okay, so while this is running, I can go and make changes, and whenever we make changes, Gulp is going to have a watch script. So that watch script will actually keep running, and whenever we make any changes and do a save, the Gulp will actually detect that, and it will do recompile everything and rebuild and distribute. Okay, so now after this compilation, what happened was you actually find that all the output is in created in the lib folder. So in the lib folder, you will see that your src index.ts is like this. So this is your src index.ts, which is empty. So index.js is also empty, and then in your web part folder, you can see this is what is built by Gulp. Okay, so TypeScript compiles your web part, and your web part consists of all the files which you actually have in your project. So in my project, I have a .ts file, a manifest.json, and I have a SAS file. So you can see the same files being converted to different formats. Okay, so webpart.ts has become webpart.js. So you can see this is my generated JavaScript file which runs. So this is actually the actual web part which will run in your browser. And then I have the manifest file. So manifest file is the packaging list which contains what is there inside your web part. So these are all the pre-configured property entries and property panel groups and etc. etc. So all these are there in the web part manifest file. Then your SAS file, which is your SCSS file, becomes the CSS file. So you can see here SAS has been converted to CSS, and it has been kind of minified, so you don't see any formatting of that CSS file. So if I want, I can just format it right now. So I'll just say, so I cannot format this. It doesn't has got no option to format. Okay, so this is the generated CSS file, and so that's what we have. Okay, then in the log folder we have in the src log folder we have the strings. So these are the localization strings. Okay, so this is English us.js. So in my English us.js basic group name, these are all the labels which I am using. So these are all in English. So if you want to create a multilingual web part, you can in the log folder, you will create one file per language, and all of them will be compiled into the log folder of the lib folder. Okay, so output is sent over here. So essentially what is happening in the build process is the build process actually generates the converts all this TypeScript which you have in your web part folder, in the src folder, to the equivalent JavaScript. Okay, so this is basically what happens, what is done by gulp. Okay, so now we understand that there is a script. So this is the script which we have, gulp file.js, and there is a pre-built gulp packaging project called SP build web, which converts your web part src folder to the lib folder. Okay, so how this happens, we will see in a, we'll try to reverse engineer some of this SP build web and we'll see how that happens. Okay, so now let us dive into this SP build. So where do I find SP build web? So SP build web can be found under the node modules. Okay, so let's go to node modules, and let me just bring out down the font a bit. So it says Microsoft SP build web. So we go to under node modules, Microsoft SP build web. Okay, so let's go and catch this folder, SP build web. And in SP build web, so SP build web is another project. Okay, so it is also a Node.js project, and SP build web actually has got a package.json which says that these are the dependencies. So when you want to build a SharePoint framework project, you have to make use of some more projects. So gulp core build SaaS serve TypeScript webpack, SP build common, and SP build core task. Okay, so these are all the sub tasks for building which SP build web uses. And dev dependencies are SP build node and SP build compiler 3.3. Okay, so there is a separate compiler project which compiles your SharePoint framework, and so these are two projects which actually are the dev dependencies. Okay, so what happens in SP build web? Okay, so what does it do? What does SP build web do? So that you can find out in lib. So SP build web has also been written in TypeScript, and it has been compiled to JavaScript. So you can't see the src folder. So in src folder will not be made available to you. src folder, if you want, you can, if you have access to the SharePoint framework SP build web source code, you can go and see there. But we can see what is exactly happening in index lib. Okay, so lib contains the main file. So when SP build web runs, you can actually go and look at what it is doing in this index.js. Okay, so what it does is it actually creates a class, okay, called SP build web rig, and then it actually initializes that SP build rig with gulp. So this is what kicks in the process. Okay, so so what exactly so this is what exactly is happening over here. So if you see where SP build web rig is there, so SP build web rig is over here. Okay, so let us dive into SP build web rig. And what SP build web rig class does is it actually extends another class called SP build rig. Okay, so if you go to the definition of that, you will find that class over here. Okay, so this is actually the class which does all the actual build. Okay, so inside your SP build web rig, what you will find is that you will find that it defines your some functions. Okay, so it defines some functions which it is going to call. Okay, so we found that initially it calls initialize with gulp, so it creates an instance of gulp and passes that. Where does that do? It does that in index.ts. Okay, so index.ts, if you see here, it will actually initialize. There's an initialize function which actually passes gulp. Okay, and it returns an SP build web rig. Okay, so if you see how exactly this works, it works like this. Okay, so it actually creates a SP build rig instance, And then what it does is it actually calls the initialize method with gulp. Okay, so this when initialize is called, it will go ahead and do some task. Okay, so you can see here initialize. This is the SP build web rig, and now what it does is actually it is going to call initialize. Okay, so in initialize, it actually calls the initialize of the super class. Okay, which is build rig. So let us go to the super class over here. So build rig, and here this is the initialize. So here it actually starts doing all the build process. Okay, so this is an extremely complicated Gulp script, and you can see that what exactly it does. Okay, so what does it do? At a higher level, if you ask me, you can actually go and find out over here. Okay, so you can actually go and find that over here somewhere. All right, so just a second. So where were we? SP build web rig. Okay, so all right, so we had a list of tasks that we were seeing in one of the places. Okay, so let us yeah, so in index.js. Okay, so in index.ts rather. So this is how it gets basically initialized. Okay, so this triggers the SP build web. Okay, so now the next thing to see is what are the things happening uh, in the actual packages. Okay, so let us go to those gulp tasks, actual gulp tasks. So you can see that there are 4 tasks over here. So this is your SP build common, which we have seen SP build web. Okay, so SP build web index.ts or SP build web rig.ts fires up these tasks. Okay, so the actual heavy lifting is done in these gulp tasks. Okay, so there is something called gulp core build. So if you go to gulp core build and look at the library, if you go to index.ts, you can find out what exactly it is doing over here. Okay, so these are some of the activities that is happening in. So this is the actual gulp script. Okay, so this is the gulp core task. All right, so what it does is it actually initializes all the tasks, and it will actually run these tasks one by one. Okay, so at a very high level, this is your core build. This is your SAS build. So SAS, how it gets converted to CSS, that you can find over here. So so this is the SAS build, and then you have the gulp core build TypeScript. So how TypeScript gets compiled to JavaScript, you can see that over here in this task. Okay, so this is the gulp script for converting TypeScript. So just remember at a higher level that these are the build task is all ready made. You don't have to go and write anything from your end to do your builds. Okay, and let us also look at the gulp core build serve. So this actually does your launching of your of your workbench. Okay, so how that happens, you can find it over here. So there is a serve task, there is a reload task, and there's trust dev task and the untrust task. Okay, so let us see what happens in serve task. Okay, so what is serve task? Serve task requires /serve task. So that is over here in serve task ts. And when you say gulp serve, it actually does this. Okay, so this is what happens in gulp serve. So when I typed over here in my project gulp serve, this serve task.js will be run, and what happens over here is you can see it actually does this. Okay, so it says gulp connect. So it makes use of a package called gulp connect. Makes use of gulp open, uses Node.js, HTTP and HTTPS libraries, and then it opens the browser. All right, and then what it does is it actually creates a server on the local using HTTPS, live reload, whatever port number you have configured, and then it actually creates some kind of an API map, okay, and then it will actually start serving the API server on the API port. All right, and then it starts the browser. You can see now it is starting the browser. So it says if open browser initial page, and then it will load the actual initial page. Okay, so you can see here task config hostname port number initial page. So this is your workbench URL which is configured. So and then what it will do is it will actually start doing the request. Okay, so it will actually request bundle.js, and it will actually request all the other files. Okay, so this is basically the serve task. Okay, so you can see that it is quite complicated, but this is how it works. Okay, so if you want to really get into the details of how things work, the only way you can do is just go and dive into these folders, and you can find out how things are working. Okay, so so I will just leave this reverse engineering task to you, and you can just go and do that if you are really curious to know how this entire build works and how gulp works. Okay, but learn some gulp before that, before you actually dive into this. If you want to understand, learn a little bit of gulp, and then you will be able to appreciate what exactly is going on behind the scenes in the build scripts. Okay, so it is a very big system. This entire thing is quite a complex soft piece of software that you will come across. But I want to find out in my SharePoint framework project, what are the options that I have. So I can actually say something like this. I can write, there is an option called gulp dash dash list, I guess. So I go to my web part project, and I just written, okay. Okay, there is nothing called gulp list. So let's kill this. So so that let me just find out what that option is for gulp. If you want to see all the gulp commands which are available to you, there is an option which is called sorry, not gulp list, it is gulp tasks. Okay, so sorry about that. So I want to see what are the gulp tasks available to me. I can write gulp dash dash tasks. Okay, so when I say gulp dash dash tasks, you can see what are the gulp tasks available for my project as SharePoint Framework project. Okay, and this will list out all the gulp tasks available for the project. So this is coming from your gulp file sp build web package. Okay, so these are the options. So I can do gulp build, I can do gulp bundle, I can do gulp package solution, I can do gulp serve, trust dev cert, trust untrust dev cert, gulp clean, gulp dev deploy, something that we have not tried. So most of you must not have tried dev deploy, and gulp deploy Azure storage. Okay, so this is these are the gulp tasks that are available. So in order to deploy my solution, so we have seen gulp serve. So gulp serve, what it does is it creates compiles my project, spins up a local web server, also spins up another process on another port which is used internally, and then it launches my browser, and it actually starts loading the workbench in that browser, and we can see the workbench, and then we go and add the web part. Okay, so that's what gulp serve does. So this is for local testing. So now what I want to do is I want to actually build my package. Okay, so what I can do is I can write gulp build. So when I do gulp build, what happens? Okay, so it will call the build script, and gulp build does nothing but it is going to compile your SharePoint framework project by running these gulp tasks. Okay, so you can see here gulp build task has got all these subtasks, build rig, pre-copy, copy static assets, SAS to CSS, okay, copy static assets. So when you generate your code, it actually copies all these generated CSS to SAS. This thing is SAS to generated CSS to the lib folder. Then does a lint task, compile the TypeScript files, done all the post copy, and then finishes. Okay, so this will build my project. So this actually gives me a build. Okay, so what does build do? Build does nothing more than compiling everything and putting in the lib folder. Okay, so once it is compiled and put in the lib folder, I can do a gulp serve, and gulp serve automatically does a build. Actually, before you do the serve, it will call build as well. But if I just want to do a build, I can build like this. Okay, so once it is built, I can go to my to my lib folder. So if I open this in lib folder, you can see all the compile assets which I actually have generated through the build. Okay, so what I will do is let me go and delete everything inside the lib folder. Okay, so delete this everything inside the lib folder, and then again do run this build. Okay, so let us say gulp build. So enter, and what you will see is gulp build will build everything and put everything back in the lib folder. So the job of gulp build is to compile your entire SharePoint framework project and then put the output in the lib folder. So if you go to lib now, you can see in your lib folder, you can see all the things coming back again. Okay, so we had just gone and deleted everything inside the lib folder, and after the gulp build, everything has appeared again. So generated JavaScript, the TypeScript definition files, the webpart folder, the webpart.js, the webpart CSS file. Okay, but here when you do a gulp build, it doesn't convert your CSS to CCS to CSS. Okay, it gives you yeah, it converts. Okay, so it does convert your SAS to CSS. You can see these are the CSS files, and then also your label file, okay, which is your localization file. So gulp build, what it will do, remember that gulp build will compile your project and generate the output and put it in lib file. So this is just like running npm start in your TypeScript project. So gulp build does the same thing, creates a build for us. Okay, so now the next thing that we can do is, once we are done with this gulp build, we can actually go and um, package the solution. Okay, so what I can do is I'll say gulp package solution. Okay, so when I say package solution, let us see what happens. So package solution will create a package for us. Okay, so this is something that has to be done after the build. So whatever you put in the lib folder, it will take everything from the lib folder and it will create a solution package. So let us see what happens after a package solution. So gulp package solution, it starts a subtask called package solution, and which is basically going to call all these tasks. So configure sp build web rig, and then finally it calls package solution. And now it is giving me a warning saying this is not a production build. Okay, so I have not used the ship option, and therefore includes client side assets will be ignored. Okay, so that we'll see what is the meaning of this, and you can actually see that after this package solution script is run, it will create a deployment package. So what it does is it takes everything from your lib folder and generates a solution package and puts it in a folder called solution. Okay, so in a folder called SharePoint /solution, under that you can see that it has created a file called sp, the webpart, sp-webpart is my project name .sppkg. Okay, so this is your sppkg file which is created, and this has taken some 705 milliseconds. Okay, so and it again tells us that this is not a production build. So we are okay with that right now. So what we can do next is go to this SharePoint folder, and inside that I find SPPKG file, and there's also a debug folder which contains some XML files. Okay, so we are not worried about this right now. Okay, so we'll just go to the SharePoint folder and take a look at this SPPKG file. So this SPPKG file I'll just reveal in Explorer. So this is where it is sitting, and it is 10 kilobytes in size. So I'm very curious to know what is there inside this SPPKG. Okay, so I'll rename this to, let us see if it is a zip file. Okay, so I'll rename this to a zip. So it says, do you want to change it? I'll say yes, and then I'll open this. So when I rename it to zip, I can open it and I can see what is there inside this SPPKG file. So what we'll do is let us extract this SPPKG file and put it in some place. So let me just go to, okay, I'll just put it on the desktop. So we'll just go to the desktop, and SPPKG, we are just going to have explode it. Okay, so we'll just extract this, and just I want to see what is there inside this SPPKG. So what you find is that it contains XML files, then it contains some folders. So let me just open up Notepad and let us start looking at these files one by one. Okay, so what I have is I have an app manifest. Okay, so what is app manifest? It's an XML file, and it contains it says that SP web part client side solution, product ID, version number. Okay, is client side solution, skip feature deployment true, is domain isolated, and title of the web part. Okay, so this is the app manifest file which contains some information about the web part. Client side assets contains information about what are the client side assets that will be loaded about this web part. So it says client side asset scope is web, hidden is false. Okay, and title is client side assets, ID is a GUID. So it doesn't and there is feature slash feature. Okay, so so it doesn't make much sense right now. So let's then you have client side assets.xml.config, which actually has got something called a part configuration schema. Okay, and it has got only a GUID in it. Okay, then feature. So this actually is like a feature or XML. It contains the GUID of a feature. Okay, so this web part, when it is deployed, it will be deployed as a feature, and this is the ID of the feature. And then there is a feature config file, which again has got the ID of that feature. Okay, so this is your these are some of the files that you can find. XML files are related to the app and the client side assets and the features. And there is content types. So you can see here the content types.xml, which actually contains information about what are the content types which are there inside this project. Okay, so in client side folder, what is there? There is a big file which is there are two PNG files. So I think these are icon files. So we'll just leave them. Then there is a GUID folder, and this GUID folder contains another XML document, which is actually, what is this? Okay, so this is a client side component. Name is customer info, ID is GUID, and component manifest is some quoted XML. Okay, so we cannot really uncode this. So this actually has got some XML which is having information about what exactly is the configuration of that web part. Okay, and then what we can do is go to this release file and folder, and in this release folder we can see information about this. Okay, so this is again some XML files, but there is no JavaScript file which is there which includes our web part. Okay, so do you see any JavaScript files? There are no JavaScript files. Nothing is hidden. So when you do a gulp build, it will just create a skeleton of your web part, and the actual assets which is your TypeScript file, your CSS file, none of that is included in your SPPKG file. Okay, so this is how your non-production build works. So in your non-production build, JavaScript, CSS, nothing is included. Okay, so in images, nothing is included. So those are your client-side assets, and those are not included in your build. Okay, so if you want to actually include them, you will have to do a production build. So so now if I take this SPPKG file and put it in an app catalog, I will have to run gulp serve in my local, and then only it will work. Okay, so this is something that everybody would have tried out when learning SharePoint framework, that I just do a gulp package solution, and then I take the SPPKG file to the app catalog and deploy, and then I have to run gulp serve to get the actual JavaScript file, the CSS file, um, and any other files that you have included like images. All that actually comes from the local host. Okay, so the concept behind SharePoint Framework web part is the SharePoint Framework web part does not contain the actual web part files. Okay, so your SPPKG file only contains pointers to the actual assets which are creating your logic. All that logic is not included in your SPPKG. Okay, so you will ask me what is the reason that it is not included. The reason that is it is not included is performance. Okay, so let me quickly give you the logic behind that. So when you go to so let us say you have deployed your web part to your SharePoint online website. So this is my tenant dot sharepoint.com. Okay, so this is, and in which you are adding a web part to your page, and this web part is an SPPKG file, and when this so when this downloads, it will only download. So it downloads in a browser. Okay, so this downloads in a browser, so it will actually download only the skeleton of that web part. Okay, so this web part does not whatever downloads, it does not include any of your JavaScript files. It does not include images. It does not include anything at all. Only a skeleton XML file with pointers. So your actual SPFx web part is an XML web part. Okay, so it is an XML web part, and that XML comes down to your client. Okay, so this XML is downloaded to the client, and that XML loads, and your SharePoint page actually figures out from that XML where to load the client-side assets. So what are the client-side assets? Your web part, class. Okay, the JavaScript for that. All other all other TypeScript files. So if you are using classes, interfaces, everything, so all other JS it has to download, and all other assets. Okay, so like CSS, images, anything else you are including, everything has to be downloaded. So this XML contains information about where to download it from. So that has to come from some CDN. Okay, so once the XML loads, the web part loads, then your browser will start making requests to HTTP requests to download these. Okay, so what it has to know is where to download it from. So either it has to download it from the local host. So if you are not done a production build, that information will come from local host. Okay, so local host will serve all those assets. So on some port number, I think the 4321 or whatever port number it is serving the assets, you will actually get all the assets from. Okay, so your assets come from local host if it is not a production build. If it is a production build, all the assets will be loaded from a content delivery network, or you will actually load it from document library or Azure or custom CDN. Okay, so my Office 365 CDN, Office 365 document library, Azure CDN or custom CDN. 4 options are there where you can download. 5th option is local hosts. This is only for loading it during testing. So So now what we can do is we can actually say that I want to I am doing a production build. So assets will actually come from O365 CDN. Okay, so O365 CDN will actually give you the assets. So everything from the main web part class to the all the other JavaScript file which are generated from your TypeScript files, CSS from SAS images, everything will come from a CDN. Okay, so to test out this theory, what we can do is let us quickly do a production build and then try to peek into the SPPKG file, then take that SPPKG file, put it in a put it in an app catalog and see what exactly where the files come from. Okay, so let me just do a production build. So we can say gulp build and dash dash ship. Okay, so this will actually create a production build of my project, and then we can create a do a package solution quickly. So let us do that. All right, so it takes a bit of time because my rig is running on at 1.2 gigahertz, which is very slow. So now we have done a gulp build ship, and we'll do a gulp package solution dash dash ship. Okay, so we are doing a production SPPKG build. So once we do this SPPKG build in production, let us see what is there inside that SPPKG, which is a production build. Okay, so we'll also okay. All right, so we are getting some error over here. All right, so this is going to be a problem. All right, so let us so let me just switch to a different folder. Okay, where I have another file. So I'll just go to let me just go to SPFx micro. Okay, so I did a previous webinar from which I can just get a web part. Okay, so let us do a build over here. So I'll say gulp build dash dash ship. So this is a different project which is basically done earlier. So we can just build that, and if we are able to create a do a package solution, we can package that and we can take that and have a look at that, and then we'll see. So then you will really appreciate the difference between a production build and a production package and a non-production package. So let us do that. So this is my all right. So now I'll just go to okay. So this is also failing for me. All right. So all right. So let us see TS. So let us try to fix this issue then. Okay. So I'll just say I'll do a gulp clean. Okay. And let us see if it works after a gulp clean. Okay. So do a gulp build ship. So this is going to do a compilation and conversion from TypeScript to JavaScript, SAS to CSS, and all the minification and other things. So let's try our luck again with gulp package solution ship. Okay, package solution ship. I hope it works this time. All right, so it doesn't work for me, so there is some problem.
Vijay,
Okay.
Vijay, can you try Gulp bundle once before running the package solution? I think the
Oh yeah. Okay, so let us do a gulp bundle. Okay. So we didn't do bundle. So bundle is there for a ship for a production build. You have to do a bundle. Sorry about that. So once you do bundle only, then you can do a package solution ship. Okay. So yeah, I skipped that step. Okay, so that is my mistake. Right. So so we do a bundle. So it will actually run some different gulp subtasks. Okay. So once the so what happens after bundling? Okay, so let us try to dig into that. Okay, so this is my lib folder. When you do a bundle, what you will get is you will get a dist folder. So a dist folder was not there earlier. So when you do a gulp bundle, this is what you get. You will get a JavaScript file and a JSON file in the dist folder. And now let us do a package solution. So we'll say gulp package solution dash ship. Okay. So this is going to create a SPPKG file, and after it is created, we'll try to see what is the difference between a non-ship package and a ship package. Okay. So yeah, so now it works. So it is created the package, and what we can do is let's go and look at the package. So where do we find the package? We find it over here under solution, and this is my SPPKG file. Okay, so what I will do is I'll just create a copy of this, go to this folder where I want to just rename it as a zip file, and then let's peek into this zip file. Okay, so if you go into this zip file, now you can see that there is also a client side asset folder, and it contains the web part, customer web info web part JavaScript file, and the string file, and the icon file. Okay, so these are all the this is the icon file of the web part. So when you do a bundle and package solution, your client side assets are also um, included in the package. Okay, so this is the difference between doing a dash ship and not doing a dash ship. So in a dash ship, after doing a bundle, you will see your client side assets are included um, in your deployment package. Okay, so that means everything that you code in your web part, so all the code that you create in your web part, in the src, whatever you create here, everything is bundled into the SPPKG file, and that actually doesn't need any additional server to be um, we don't need a local host. So when I'm loading the web part, the client side assets will load from SharePoint Online or any other place, whichever is configured. Okay, so now what we'll do is let us take this and deploy it to SharePoint Online. So what I will do is I'll just go to SharePoint Online. Okay, so I have my developer account, and let us go into this developer account, and let us deploy this. Okay, quickly. So all right, so I just go to my developer account and let us go to the app catalog. Okay, so I think this is the app catalog and apps for SharePoint, and then just deploy this. Okay, so yeah, so this is my solution package SPPKG, and I have my app catalog, and I'll just take this and drop it over here. And so it'll ask me whether you want to make it available in all sites in the organization. I'll say yes, and we will say deploy. Okay, so now it goes and sits in the app catalog as a client side solution. So what I can do is I can go to my main website, which is my developer site, and edit this page and try to add that web part. Okay, so what I can do is I'll just go to this zone over here and try to see if the web part is available. Okay, so here it is, cust info web part, and add this cust info web part and publish. Okay, so how does this thing load now? Where do the assets come from? We will have to find out. So I'll just go and look at the network activity of this page. So when I refresh this, you can see that it reloads the page, and somewhere over here you will see that the files will be loading from a content delivery network. Okay, so let us see the URLs. Okay, and you can find out. So let us sort it. All right, and all right, let me do a hard refresh. Control F5. So your web part file is this one. So you can see cust info web part. Okay, so you can see here cust info web part is here. This is the web part, and you can just see this one. So you can see the request. Okay, so where is this request coming from? So cust info web part loads from public cdn.sharepointonline.com / this my tenant name.sharepoint.com / sites appcat client as site assets, and after that a GUID, and then this JS file. Okay, so this is the web part file. It comes from the public CDN on SharePoint Online. Okay, why does this come from the SharePoint Online public CDN? Because we have enabled the public CDN on SharePoint Online, so that whenever we deploy the web parts, the web part will get the client side assets, which is in this client side asset folder, or everything inside that will get served from this location. Okay, so what I will try to do is I'll try to see whether I can peek into the client side assets folder and see all the client side assets. Okay, so this is the public cdn.sharepointonline.com, tenant name sharepoint.com sites appcat client side assets. I can't actually. Okay, so it gives me an access denied, but I cannot browse the directory, but I can actually do that with the SharePoint Designer. Okay, so maybe if you can expose this with SharePoint Designer, try to see if this works for you. Okay, so get a peek into the CDN folder, which is client side assets. So what is meant by CDN? CDN means that when this file downloads, so when the cust info web part -GUID.js downloads, it will always download from a server in the Microsoft's content delivery network, which is closest to my geography. So if I am seeing this page on my machine, which is located in Chennai. So this file has been copied to a data center in Chennai, and this will actually take very little time. Okay, so you can see here, if you go to this file and look at what is the download the speed time of this, it will be very less. Okay, so you will find that it downloads in less than 1 to 5 milliseconds because it is in a local data center. So someone in Brazil, for example, is also looking at the same page with the same web part. This file will not be downloaded from a Chennai data center. They will be it will be downloaded from a data center which is there in their geography. So Microsoft CDN makes a copy of this available in that geography for them. So whatever client-side assets download, they download from content delivery networks, so that the download time is very minimal. So this is the reason why the client-side assets, which are the JavaScript files which are generated from your TypeScript, are actually put in the content delivery network. So now you can use different type of options for your content delivery network. You can use this Office 365 CDN, you can use Azure CDN, or you can use even a custom CDN. So if you are having subscription to your custom content delivery network, or if you're having your own content delivery network, you can host all these files in your own content delivery network and use that. Okay, but I think for most projects, deploying and using the Office 365 SharePoint Online Content Delivery Network itself is enough. But for specialized cases, you can use Azure, or for very specialized cases where you have security issues, you can use your own content delivery network, or you can also use the SharePoint online document library. So you can just copy all the client-side assets in a document library and configure your web part to actually use load the assets from the document library. Okay, so but that will make everything very slow because document library will actually download it from your data center where your tenant is located. So the tenant is actually located in a specific data center. So downloading files from that data center will cause latency if you are in a different geography. So it's a good practice to actually have all your client-side assets in a content delivery network. So if you want to find out, I wanted to show that how to do that. But if you want to find out, you can actually find out, how to do deployments to content delivery network from the Microsoft documentation. So you can simply head over to SharePoint Framework, and let me just show you the links. Okay, so on docs.microsoft.com, you will find a lot of articles on how to actually do CDN deployments. So somewhere over here, if you just search, you will find on how to actually deploy it to content delivery networks. Okay, so how to do builds and how to do CDN deployments. So just search on docs.microsoft.com/SharePoint Dev SPFx, and you can actually learn how to do CDN deployments. Okay, so let me just drop it in the chat window. Okay, so how do I drop it in the chat window? Meeting chat, type a message. So this is your docs. On a second, I'm not able to docs link in the chat window. Right, so docs link in the chat window. And yeah. Okay, so this is basically how you can do where you can go and find out. So unfortunately, we have kind of run out of time. I wanted to show you the CDN deployment and how to do Azure deployment, but we can probably do that in a different section. Okay. So Nandeep says that bigger the package, bigger is the performance impact. So if you are downloading it from a local CDN server, the whatever packages you're downloading, it will download fast. That is why we use content delivery networks. So this is it from my side. So I hope these demos, what I did was very high level and practical, look at